Hello, rad humans. I am Ash Lazer.
And I'm Dylan Clark.
Welcome, Dylan. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
This is a show that is yet to be named, but it is presented by the Stunt List. Thank you guys for all your support for the website thus far, and we're really excited to talk with Dylan today. I'm going to start with a bio for Dylan, just to introduce him to you folks who may not be familiar with his work yet, but you will very soon. Dylan Clark is a viral filmmaker who's gained a large following in the YouTube horror space, gravitating towards horror's intersection with religion and technology. His short films have amassed millions of views online. This is via Deadline, by the way. Clark fell in love with filmmaking while growing up between Germany and Austria before earning a degree in film production and screenwriting from Ithaca College. Currently, he is writing to direct an adaptation of his short film, Portrait of God, which you guys got to check out immediately on Dylan's YouTube channel, with legends Sam Raimi and Jordan Peele, if you can believe it, as executive producers. He is also recently, it's also recently been announced that he is set to direct the new Blair Witch project from Lionsgate, Atomic Monster, and Blumhouse. A little bit about Portrait of God. Universal Pictures bought the spec in a competitive situation, which we'll talk more to Dylan about shortly, with Sam Raimi of Ghost House and Jordan Peele of Monkey Paw. Blair Witch is with Lionsgate, James Wan's Atomic Monster, Jason Blum's Blumhouse, and partnering with Roy Lee. There's just so many legendary names that I can't even read them off of the page. I'm just like stuttering through all these horror legends, Dylan.
It is a lot of names. Too many, perhaps.
Yeah, so, I guess technically you could text any one of these guys right now if you wanted to. Could you just pull out your phone and text them?
It depends. It depends on the person, but the fact that any of them there's that amount of communication with, it's just, yeah, it's mind-boggling and very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, you'll have to include me into that group chat.
Yeah, huge. I'll start a group chat after this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just first off, congratulations. We talked off camera before we started, but Portrait of God is phenomenal. Your YouTube channel is phenomenal. The news that's been coming out with Portrait of God and the Blair Witch and everything. I know the Twitter community and the Instagram community and the YouTube community, everybody's just super, super stoked because apparently you're a really nice guy.
I'll take it. I think if I said that, it would make it untrue, but I'll take it from other people.
Yeah, we have some shared mutual acquaintances, and everybody just speaks incredibly highly of you. I'm excited to talk with you. I saw Portrait of God 2 or 3 years ago when we first met, championed it on the Dead List, which is on the Stunt List website for our horror scripts and short films. And when I saw the news, Portrait of God and Sam Raimi and Jordan Peele, it just blew my mind. So we're super stoked for you. We're super happy to support and champion, and I'm personally looking forward to the feature film and all your work coming out soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you asking to do this. I know we had connected a while back, so it was exciting to get to do a proper conversation about everything since.
Yeah, and I can't imagine your schedule right now. So thanks for taking the time out for that. And I've got a question later to kind of see how you're balancing everything, original IP of your own, adapting it to a feature versus existing IP like the Blair Witch, juggling between playing in someone else's world and expanding your own.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we were talking off camera as well, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, YouTube horror filmmakers are hot right now, right?
Yeah, no, it's a crazy time. Specifically, like this week, the timing for this conversation is particularly good.
Yeah, I think Obsession is estimated to track like over 100 million or something like that soon with a $1 million budget, and then you got Backrooms coming out with A24, and then right loaded in the chamber you've got Portrait of God right behind that. So it's like young filmmakers on YouTube going viral, building a great portfolio, and having Hollywood dip into that. It's just mind blowing. It's awesome. So I just wanted to mention that. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about, coming up as a filmmaker on YouTube, the opportunities, the exposure that is presented to you, the platform itself as a creative outlet, maybe like while you were in college versus to like that step right before things kind of blowing up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the feedback that you have with your audience and your community via YouTube, and maybe if you're dropping stuff on Instagram and things like that. And then maybe on the tail end of that, we could talk about traditional film festivals. I think you hit a few of those versus YouTube, like online, kind of just like releasing your own stuff and being kind of your own gatekeeper versus the traditional aspect of film festivals. So yeah, I'll throw it to you if you don't mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think YouTube is like, it's interesting. There's so much to say about this, especially right now, because it's like the hot kind of topic right now. But I think a lot of filmmakers, almost every filmmaker right now that is like up and coming, that has had access to YouTube as they've been making their earliest films, is going to use YouTube to platform their films. So there's an interesting conversation right now about like, well, suddenly we're like turning to YouTubers. It's like, okay, but what is a YouTuber? If a filmmaker is putting their stuff on YouTube, does it make them a YouTuber, or are they a filmmaker using YouTube? And I guess the difference is like, if there's some amount of virality, or like there's an audience on YouTube, then suddenly you become a YouTuber rather than a filmmaker. So there's a weird kind of thing happening there, because I think it's only natural that like any filmmaker in the past would have used YouTube if it were available to them at that time. So that's almost answering another question. But my experience with YouTube has been really good. It's kind of been, for me, it's been just a place where I can immediately reach an audience. And I think horror specifically is somewhere that has access to an immediate audience. Some other short films and that are outside of the genre, I think, struggle a little bit more to find their audience online, and that's frustrating. But I feel very lucky that there is the appetite within the horror community on YouTube to seek out these short films. So for me, it was always something that I felt I could get my films an audience through pretty quickly. And that definitely was something I was weighing against film festivals and the more kind of conventional route that you might take a short film when you're finished with it. But I was frustrated, and I think a lot of people are frustrated by a number of things about the festival route when it comes to short films specifically. Because if you're not getting into like a massive one, and even if you are getting into a massive one, then you're suddenly paying a bunch of fees. If you're going to the festival, which you should, if you're submitting, you should be trying to go to these festivals. Then you're paying to go to the festival, to put yourself up at the festival. If you want to see other things, you might not have a pass that covers multiple things, multiple films at the festival. So there's all these expenses in what is already a very expensive profession, so to speak, to be doing as a up and comer. And so to me, YouTube was just like, okay, let's cut through that. And also you have to wait to share your film with an audience, because you have deadlines that are way out, and festivals taking place like months and months after the deadlines, and then you can't premiere it in between. So for me, YouTube was like cutting through all that, saving some money, share it directly with the audience that I want it to be seen by anyways. And now, just fortuitously, it's becoming a legitimate platform to be noticed, especially on the horror front, by the industry. So yeah, there's all these benefits. And to answer one piece of the question that you had in specific, I think it's particularly helpful for me as someone receiving feedback, because you do get immediate feedback from your audience on YouTube. And that helps shape the trajectory of the short films that I made, where I remember releasing one short in particular where I was a little, I was focusing on certain aspects of the film that I thought were not working, but kind of ignoring other aspects that I didn't realize weren't working at that age. And I remember putting it online, and people were like, oh, the character's so stupid. Like, why is she doing this? And it was the kind of thing where like completely accurate, like completely valid. And seeing those comments really, in a good way, kind of got under my skin, because I was like, damn, this is like, I can't do another short where there's a character who's not doing these things. And so I directly tried to address that in the next short I made. And I think that the following short was so much better, partly because of the direct response to that feedback. So, you do get a lot of like stray comments that are just nothing, and criticisms that mean nothing, and whatever. But you do get some really substantially good feedback, and it's almost like a what's the right way to put it? It's like an early version of a test screening that you get for like a studio film or something. And I think that's a really good experience to have, that direct connection to your audience. So yeah, I mean, that's a specific thing, but hopefully that answers the kind of broad wealth of reasons that YouTube's been helpful for me.
Yeah, it almost feels a little bit like episodic television, right? Where they would get feedback from the audience and kind of slowly shape characters over time. So you submitting to a film festival, and some, like, if you hit the early bird special to get the most affordable rate, you may be waiting 18 months if you're accepted, right? And et cetera, et cetera. So you're getting that immediate feedback and exercising and the repetition of continuing much quicker, right? There's pros 100%. And cons to both for sure, but
yeah. And the pro, I mean, that is, you could have like an hour-long conversation about why you should have a film go to a festival versus go online, because it totally depends on the project. And it also, at the end of the day, it does come down to a bit of a gamble either way. Like, if it works out at the festival level, great. That can still be a route to like be seen directly by the people who might option it or something like that. But and there's a risk of putting something online and then not having that avenue available to you, because you can always put something online after a festival circuit. So it's a whole weird, complicated and tricky decision-making process, but it's nice that YouTube is a legitimate avenue these days. So
I was curious, who discovered Portrait of God? Like, how did that seed, like, how did that first little interest come, right? For the community, for emerging writers and filmmakers, like, how did it work for you, right? And then also, like, what was there monetization elements in your YouTube channel for someone like you who has broken through 10,000 views or 50,000 views, getting up into the millions? If you have multiple shorts on your channel, are you getting any real, you don't have to give us a figure if it's uncomfortable, but it's like, I think people would be interested in knowing that. I know I am, just as a indie filmmaker, indie writer, and people pursuing these outlets. I don't think a small amount of money people would really make or break, but if the exposure is attached to that, right? So if you don't mind speaking a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I might actually speak to that first, and then talk about where how Portrait of God came to be noticed. But on the monetization side, I know people who have really committed to the difficult thing about YouTube and the algorithm and actually doing it as a profession as opposed to using it as a platform is that there's an amount of what's the right word? You have to be consistent, right? There's an amount of consistency that you have to have. There's a volume game you have to play. And I know filmmakers who have played that game, and I think it's great. Like, I think they've learned a lot, and they've just made a bunch of short films specifically for YouTube, and they've been able to make enough money to be substantially helpful for them in their day-to-day lives and living and costs. I have not had that experience. The shorts I've put up, some of them have gotten a lot of views, and that's been great. And I have seen money back for it. And especially for how little we're making these shorts for, it is money that is certainly helpful for me, but it is over a period of time that is so long that it has never been something that's like really supported me. It's been more of a passive, nice little bonus. And so that's a tricky thing. And I think if my channel with the amount of videos I have and the views on those videos, if that can be a good reference as like, okay, well, this was not like my livelihood, then hopefully that's helpful for people to know. But also, Portrait of God, it almost is at 10 million, but that's over the course of like 4 years. And so the amount of money that film has made has been stretched out in very bizarre increments too. Like it wasn't making any money at first really, and then you start to see some, and certain months are much bigger than others. So you can't really rely upon it unless you're being really consistent. And my fear was always, because I could have tried to have been really consistent and made a ton of shorts for YouTube, but my fear is that at that point, I want to see myself getting better with the shorts and treat each short as like the project, the most important thing I've done, which, you know, has its pros and cons. That mindset has its pros and cons, but I think it's hard to do that when you are also trying to just keep pumping them out at a consistent rate. So that's that side of it. Portrait of God definitely was the film that got me the most industry awareness by far. But there were a couple shorts before it that I had meetings through, and some of the executives I know now that I'm very close with had reached out earliest around those earlier short films. So it's kind of been interesting to track like who I knew before Portrait of God. But yeah, Portrait of God was the main one, and the way that it really got seen by people industry-wise was I had actually connected with a YouTube filmmaking buddy named Sam Evenson. His channel is called Grimoire Horror. It's amazing. His shorts are so good. And so we connected as just, you know, YouTube horror filmmakers that enjoyed each other's work. And then he had seen Portrait of God after I released it shortly after we met. And he was like, hey, I know this producer that I'd love to send it to. Would you be open to that? I'm like, yes, of course, like, please. And so he sent it to a friend of his named Joe Russo, who's this producer. And Joe, we all met together to talk about it. Joe was interested in shopping it around, and Joe had asked, like, you know, do you have plans for this as a feature? Do you want to write on it? What are your thoughts? And I had some thoughts, but I didn't have like a concrete idea of what it would be. I had a pitch, but it was pretty loose and it was very, very, very micro budget. And so I was open to exploring it with a company, and, you know, from the ground up. So we took it to, Joe took it to Ghost House Pictures, and he sent it to a couple other places. We had a shopping agreement, and Ghost House was the first place he sent it to, and they really responded to it. And so we met with them, and they were excited to try to do something with it. And so we linked arms with them and tried to start, Joe and I as co-writers on it, tried to start developing a pitch. And yeah, I guess that's how it all started. There's a whole journey of how it ended up where it's ended up, but maybe I should save that for another question.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I don't want to interrupt you, that is another question. So if you wanted to go into that, because I was curious about you as the writer director of the short, right? And then expanding it into a feature at the studio level with what I had written down was like an assigned co-writer, right? Like Joe was a producer, writer, and following your steps there. Yeah, I would love to hear how that, you know, it seems like he was very generous and thoughtful, asking you like, what are your thoughts? What are your intentions? Yeah. What are you looking to do? And to bring it to Ghost House, that's incredible. And then to have interest and still keep you on board. Because even myself as a junior producer, it's hard to stay on board with things that are larger than you and bigger than you, even though you're the creator of it or you discovered it, right? So I would definitely, if you're comfortable with, I would love to hear that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've felt very lucky that never along the way have I felt pushed to the side. It's been nice because I have wondered if that would happen, and everyone has been very, very respectful and friendly about making sure it feels like something that I am making. Joe was also someone who up front was like, hey, I would love to write on this, but how do you feel about it? It was never like, it never felt assigned or anything like that. It was very much like yeah, let's do this together, you and I, let's see how it goes, but let's really go for it. And so we had started that even before, like we knew that was going to be the situation before we were with Ghost House. So it was never assigned. But
if I'm so sorry if I may interrupt you, as a writer yourself.
Yeah.
What was your thought processes on being okay with a co-writer? Was it because like you being humble and saying, hey, there are things I need to learn, Joe's got to produce film out, he has these contacts, of course I would want help, or versus the egotistical artist of yourself, right? Like, well, this is my story, and et cetera, et cetera. If you mind just touching on that.
Yeah,
before. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, for me, I saw it as a good opportunity to work with a more experienced writer. Joe's in the guild. There were a number of things that it felt like it would be helpful for, and I think that remained to be the case. But yeah, I'm trying to remember if I ever thought to myself that I really wanted to write out my own. I mean, obviously, yeah, the egotistical side of you is like, oh, this is like fully my baby. But at the same time, I think at the time I was still in school. So there were a number of reasons that I think it really made sense for me. And I was excited that someone wanted to write on it with me. So no, I definitely saw it as an exciting thing at the time. But of course, not knowing what exactly would look like, because I didn't have, if I had a script going in and I felt really strongly about it, I think it would have changed my mindset coming into it. But since it was kind of a blank slate, it was exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking to see what would happen with that slate. But yeah, so we started working on a pitch with, the team started working on a pitch, and the goal was to go out with it in the spring of 2023. So it was a long time ago. And that may have been, no, that's earlier than when we were chatting, or that might have been around when it was.
Yeah, I think it was, you said there is some, I think the quote via email was, there is some interest, so I'm not sure how much I can share, but with the feature and the script, because I had asked you what my goal was, short horror that has a companion script already ready, right? So if we show it to industry, they love Portrait of God, I can say he has the script ready, right? And I think you were like, well, we're right in that process yet, so feel free to show the short. Thank you for that, but on the dead list, but we got to hold back the feature script essentially.
Yeah. So okay, so then it was around the same time that we were putting together that pitch, and the goal was to go out with it in the spring, but then the writer strike hit, and so we had to kind of close shop, wait out the entire strike. And then on the other side of it, there was a lot of weird kind of industry uncertainness of like, can we sell a pitch? Like, what's the appetite? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. So we decided to just spec it. Joe and I decided to spec it. And it took a while to get that spec in a place where we were happy with it, but we were going back and forth with Ghost House on notes and whatnot. And then in the summer of 2025, I cannot believe that is a year ago. This still feels like in my head, it's like a couple months ago. Summer of 2025, we went out with the script and the short, properly trying to sell the project. Yeah, so we very luckily ended up in a situation where there were multiple people interested. And, when you're going out with a project, one of the things you're doing is you're trying to figure out like the best avenues to reach each place you're going out to. So it's like, which executives do we know? Like, which executives even do I know? The companies obviously know their people, and the agents and the managers and all that help, but it's also a lot of like the personal relationships become helpful. And so one of the personal things was someone at Monkey Paw that both Joe and I knew before this, named Chris Rosati. He was someone who was aware of the project and that we were friendly with, and Joe was friends with. And so we sent the project to him, and he brought it to Monkey Paw. And what was great about Monkey Paw is that they were really excited about the project, and we met with them to talk about it, and they wanted to get on board. And they, their home studio is Universal. And so that opened up an avenue to try to see if Universal was interested. And that was what ended up happening. We ended up pitching it with Monkey Paw to Universal, and Universal gave us an offer, and we ended up going with them. And yeah, that's kind of the whole story for how it ended up where it ended up, and with the people that are involved. So
yeah, and that started with another filmmaker using the platform on YouTube, and you guys just respecting each other's work, and just being humble, and shedding that scarcity mindset, right? That's kind of like the folks on Twitter and through the Stuntless website championing others. That's kind of what we do. It's like a rising tide lifts all scripts, right? Like if I'm able to help you now, I'm not doing it selfishly. I want to help you, but just organically and naturally, I think that opens up a door down the road, because as a human, you're going to feel like you owe me something, which you don't, but also more than that, that you trust me now, right? You're like, oh, you know, Ash introduced me to this guy, like, you know, so 2 years down the road, you're going to answer my calls or my texts, or if I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a new manager or agent, or I just made the short Portrait of God, right? You're going to be like, oh yeah, let me take a look. So that's awesome that it all, you know, spawned from your connections with other filmmakers on YouTube that you admired and respected, and you guys helped each other out and said, hey, I know this guy that would love to see your work, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's like, in reflecting back on it, that's one of the most like wholesome things about it, and honestly probably the most important piece to take away from it, right? Where it's like, I can't remember if it was Sam or myself who reached out asking to meet. I want to say it was me asking him, but regardless, reaching out to people, it's so easy to do online. You'd be surprised how many people do respond. I've tried to be very responsive. It definitely gets harder. But when you're on YouTube and you're putting stuff on YouTube, I think a lot of those people are very interested in chatting. And so reaching out to Sam, chatting with him, not knowing that it would lead to what it led to. And like, Sam's a co-producer on the feature now. So like, he's involved, very much involved. Great. And that's awesome too. So like, like you said, like it only helps yourself. Like it helps everyone, even if you're helping someone else, it might end up helping you. And Sam's doing some crazy stuff now. And yeah, the scarcity mindset, I think, is a real, it's not real. Like, people want to be like, they want an abundance of success stories. They don't want like the one success story only makes them want more. It's not the other way around. So yeah.
And I was also going to say, it's also fantastic for you to keep it in the family, right? So that person that did you that favor, that gave you the referral, that gave you the introduction, right? You're keeping them on board as a producer, or, you know, like, how can I help? Where can I return it back to you? You know, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I will say that's another place that I've been really happily surprised by the dynamic in general with the group, because like, everyone has been wanting to, all the producers involved have been wanting to keep people involved and like, and make sure it makes it, because we have a lot of people on the project, and it could be a difficult game to juggle them, but everyone likes everyone, and so it's nice to like know that, like, you know, people want Sam involved and things like that. So yeah.
I mean, that's a testament to you as probably as well, right? The folks that you've trusted and agreed with, right? Like, yes, I want to work with you. You know, we've met. You know, using your instincts and judgment of character, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted just to touch base on, I think you said Portrait of God was discovered, and then Joe Russo as a co-writer while I was in college, right? I mean, that's
gonna
blow people's minds. So my YouTube channel decades ago, when I had a tiny bit of success, I was out of college and in New York City, just as a guerrilla filmmaker. We were stealing every shot, not paying for insurance. I would rent some lens and buy food, and then I had actors and folks working with me for free, essentially, sweat equity, right? They wanted, et cetera. So I'm curious for you, were these quote unquote film school films? Were these college films? Were these like part of your work assignment? Was this parallel, just like, hey, I'm going to be a writer director, I'm just doing this while I have the time? And then also the sweat equity side of it, like, were you just recruiting folks to work with you for free, and you just happen to be very, very talented, and the result is Portrait of God? I know it took films to get there, but I just meant in general. Or were you working your ass off, saving money, and like, you know, paying strangers, right? I need a DP, I need an audio engineer, you know, I need an actress, you know, et cetera. So I'm curious of, were these like film school films, and or, you know, were you saving up money and like really fronting like a big cost? Because a lot of people use Kickstarter and crowdsource, or feel oppressed. They're like, oh, I want to make a film, but I don't have $20,000. But meanwhile, they're in college, or it's their first film, you know, and it's just like, well, there are also different ways you can make it happen, right? So I'd love to hear like where you were at during that stage, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, college, so I did go to film school at Ithaca, and it was a little bit of a weird experience timing wise because um, like my freshman year, the pandemic hit. And so
Hmm.
um, it meant that the projects I made, for the most part, all the way through senior year, the projects I made and my peers made at film school were relatively small. Like they would be pretty small anyways, and they probably should be pretty small anyways. They definitely should be pretty small anyways, but they were forced to be even smaller. And like I think there's a mindset in film school of like, oh, my thesis is gonna be big. I'm gonna like go crazy, and like, and it's kind of a fun and cool mindset that some people have, but sometimes it can be the death of those films.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of was falling into that mindset a little bit up front, but then the pandemic hit, and so like I had, I went home and I made short horror films with my sister and my family and things like that, and I wouldn't have been doing as much of that, and those were some of the earliest films that did really well on YouTube. And like, and the funny thing is like some of those films are continuing to be helpful to me in ways that like I wouldn't expect, like in terms of like um pitching on projects now. Some of those short films have actually been instrumental in getting getting jobs, which is so crazy. But they're tiny. I mean,
Like showing that
yeah, like because
pandemic at home short, like
yes.
please watch this, and they're like, this is fantastic, we want to hire you.
Well, yeah, I mean, not like that cut and dry,
Right, right.
but like what I like to do is for some of the pitches I've done, I'll like, and I've seen other people do, and I'm kind of stealing this idea from other people, but um I'll take like scares from my shorts or like moments from my shorts and weave them into the pitch. I'll do like a visual kind of pitch. And and it's been funny how like one short in particular during that pandemic time was so baked into this pitch that I made that like to me it felt like the thing, like it felt married to the project. And that was just a short that I made with my sister during the pandemic in 2020. But point being, even when I came back to school and like we were making Portrait of God, which was excuse me, which was something that was kind of post-pandemic. Like we still had to keep it small, but we could have gone bigger with it. And I think that the mindset of keeping things small and honing in because of the pandemic led to something like Portrait of God, where I was like, no, I'm actually happy to do this with just a couple people in a room. And it was just a classroom at Ithaca with a little bit of equipment. And it was just friends helping on the project. The only person, in film school, that's kind of normal. I mean, it's very normal. The one person that I've been working with and paying up until that point was the composer, Ryan Shreves, who I've done a bunch of my short films with. And so he was paid on that project, but otherwise it was just like buying some snacks and paying for the props. And that was it. You can't get away with that after school, really. I mean, you can to some extent, but it becomes
Or
harder.
now that you're Dylan Clark, right? They're like, yeah, of course I'll work with you. Here's my day rate.
Well, as they should. I'm like, absolutely, I should not be able to get away with that. But to some extent, I think like when you're making just a small project, like and filmmakers, like I'll help on other people's shorts for nothing still. So there is definitely that kind of it goes around mentality, which I think is great. Yeah. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, no. I mean, you made Portrait of God in college, in a college classroom in Ithaca, New York, upstate New York.
Yeah.
As far away from LA as you possibly could be.
Yeah.
For basically no budget, right?
Yep.
With your peers that you had already been helping with on their projects.
Yep.
I mean, that's just mind blowing, right? That's the dream. That's fantastic. And like that, so that just shows that your vision, right, and your talent can, surpass, a Kickstarter for $20,000, right? It's like, the idea, the concept, the script, the execution, and then, kind of paying your dues with your peers and your friends, right? Like you were in school, so, some people might have been forced to help you on the school project, but it's the same way as a guerrilla filmmaker, right? It's like if you're helping someone PA or somebody that dropped out of their project last minute and you just jump in there for free and not like, oh, I need $250. It's like, if I help you for free, then maybe you'll help me for free later. And that's invaluable, right? That's priceless, because it's like I think they also say like lateral networking, right? The folks that are going to grow with you, right? So it's like you're just building that trust, right? You're and helping champion other folks. So that's fantastic. That's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even now, like I moved out to LA with a bunch of the people who did the Portrait of God short post grad, like Sydney, right? Sydney's out here with me, and we still work on projects together, which is fun. Like we still work on shorts. They're not mine these days, but they're, whether it's something Sydney's acting in or she's producing, or my friend Olivia, we'll do stuff with her, and yeah, all these people who worked on Portrait of God are still very much in the mix of, like, I was just on a set last weekend with two of the 5-person crew from Portrait of God, doing a very small short with one of them, and it felt very much like doing Portrait of God again. So
that's incredible to hear, man. That is so fantastic. Sydney was great.
It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. For folks who have not seen Portrait of God the short, you're one of 10 million people who have not seen it, but it is just fantastic, Dylan. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it does not look. It looks like a scene from a Universal Pictures movie, right? It does not look like a film. Like, just people are gonna be really excited to see it.
Thank you.
So regarding reps, literary management, and agents, can you speak a little bit about where you were at before Portrait of God, and then now where you're at post, kind of like at the studio level, and then maybe a little bit of the minutia of like actually the steps that you took early in your representation via now to whatever you're comfortable and able to speak about.
Yeah, for sure. I, prior to Portrait of God, did not have reps, so that was the project. That's an example of how that project really helped me out. I had specifically started meeting with managers through Ghost House and Joe Russo, who were at that time that we started working on it together, connecting me with people that they knew, which was like so massive. And I met with a bunch of people, and yeah, from there I ended up signing with 3 Arts. And so my managers, what was that? Around the time that we started chatting, actually, in 2023. So a couple months after we had started working on Portrait of God with Ghost House, I signed with them, Luke Maxwell and Will Robotham. And yeah, it's interesting. The relationship, I think, between filmmakers and their managers definitely evolves over time. That's kind of like how it's supposed to be with them. They're supposed to be with you for the long term. And so earlier on, there wasn't as much for us to do together. I was working on the Portrait of God pitch with Ghost House, and like that was its own thing. And my reps weren't necessarily as in the mix on it because it had already been set up and whatnot. But we had started talking about other projects and what it made sense to do after Portrait of God or concurrently in the event that, a different project were to go first. And so it was just like very early kind of incubation stuff. And there was no agent conversation at that point. It was just them. And that remained to be the case until we went out with Portrait of God, where once we sold Portrait of God, I met with agents, and I'm with UTA now. And that has changed. I mean, it's such a weird thing. I think especially it's a very mysterious thing, like the difference between agents and managers, because there is a lot of overlap in the responsibilities and dynamics.
So essentially, Portrait of God got the attention of multiple producers, and then they did what good producers and relationships should be, which is they said, hey, you're unwrapped and you're young. We want to introduce you to folks that we admire and respect. And you took those meetings. And then, like you said, the project had already went forward kind of without them. So there wasn't much going on initially. And then they were guiding you for potential next projects, which you brought up a couple keywords there, right? Like in incubation periods, and then also in case something goes first before something else, right? Because even though this happened before they came on board, it might not happen for 2 years. They may get you something in that interim, which is a great insight to know for folks who are not at that stage yet. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to. I think it's a mistake to and early on, I think it's easy to fall into this trap of thinking that a project that's set up somewhere is a certainty. Like it's not even a job at first necessarily. You might not be seeing any money for it at first. And so you have to kind of treat it as something that you are fully investing in, but you're also thinking about other things, because you just don't know. You don't have full control over what's going to happen with it. The timeline, all the nuts and bolts that go into actually making the thing go. It's in your best interest to think about multiple things. And that's where the managers were helpful. You know, as we started working together, was thinking about, well, what are those other things? And so we looked at like some short films, other short films I had done, and I was still making short films. So there was also that piece of it, and talking to them about what those shorts are, and like, hey, is there a future version of this short that I'm making? And so, yeah, that was a lot of the work with them early on. And some of those projects have materialized in the process of also working on Portrait of God. So, yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, I used to have this word written down. It's kind of the opposite of your real life relationships, you know, like with your husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend. It's creative monogamy is not really that helpful.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
business. Yeah. Because like you said, you have to be thinking about multiple things. It's kind of like when you see athletes, you know, at that top tier stage, you know, it's like, I'm like, why aren't you more excited that you just won this or made the, you know, whatever, right? It's like, because they also have to level out the disappointments, right? They have to kind of be on this kind of flat line emotional spectrum, right? Where you can't get too high, you can't get too low, because it's just a day to day, right?
That makes us sound psychotic, but I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly.
No, it's
my
definitely
wife
true.
calls me psychotic on a daily basis, and such a loving, you know, I have sleeping issues, and I'll tell her this thing early in the morning when I wake up, and she'll be like, you know, you see, this is why you can't sleep, because you're writing a movie in your head all night, or you're producing this thing, or, you know, it's like, but obviously she loves it, you know, she admires it. She's being playful, but it's like, yeah, you're a psychopath. This is why you can't sleep.
Yeah, constantly. No, it's so funny. I have the same thing. I've been talking to people, not to go off on a tangent, but I've been talking with people about like how funny it is as like a horror writer to go to bed and start to think about your ideas, because then you're like, you have trouble sleeping and you're going to bed thinking about these insane things. And yeah, that affecting your quality of sleep is just like, yeah, makes you feel specifically psychotic.
You reach over and you grab your iPhone, right? You're typing in the most like,
exactly. Yes.
Yes.
And then you're dreaming like the craziest shit. You're like, this is a
I do the same thing. I call it dream work, right? You kind of, you're like, okay, I'm interested in going to sleep. I can't wait to go to sleep. I'm fatigued. I'm tired, but I also want to, you know, Salvador Dali this shit, right? I want to like, I want to plant some seeds and let them, you know, grow while I'm, you know, in those stages. Yeah.
Well, it's when you have, it's your downtime, right? Like when I feel like when I like lay down to go to bed, I'm like, oh, I can finally think. And it's like, no, actually turn off your brain. That's what you should be doing. But,
you and I are very similar. I'm like, I enjoy thinking at this time, but I'm also like, I also need to rest, right?
Yeah. The struggle.
And you know, I'm interested if you might be able to let fans of yours and of the short Portrait of God, and you may not be able to, which is fine. We can cut this out if you know, if it's not possible. But with Portrait of God, is there anything that you can tell us that you're excited about? Location, casting. I had questions about budget, if you were okay talking about it. We found out that the short was zero budget in film school. So that answers that question. But I was like, you know, anything you can share that would be exciting to fans ready to see the feature, and just of your work in general, casting, locations, budget, other talent or crew. But also, if you could speak to the indie filmmaker out there that's emerging and looking to break through as well with a proof of concept. And you had Joe, so that would be part of it too, right? You had a co-writer who had already been at that level, and then management and teams and stuff, Ghost House and Monkey Paw. But that could even be part of the conversation, right? Like, how do you expand, you know, your short to a feature? Were you like, hey guys, how much money do we have? Like, how much expansion can I do? Or did you write the script without the budget in mind? And then, you know, also as a director for yourself, I think it's going to be maybe your first feature, or at least the first feature at the studio level, where you're like, hey man, I've got $1 million or I've got $20 million. Like, this is insane. You know, like, how do you switch gears in your mind from, you know, a no budget, low budget short to the studio level? You know?
Yeah, it's definitely been an ongoing process, and it's something I've actually been kind of reflecting on recently, because I've been thinking about, I've been working on other people's short films and reading short film scripts and whatnot, and getting kind of back into that mindset briefly. And it's made me realize just how much my mindset has changed over the past couple years, where on the short film side, it was coming from that no budget, no resources perspective of building the film into the around and into the resources I currently have. And that is something I felt like I got very good at doing and very comfortable doing. So then when you're suddenly confronted with, okay, blank page, what is it? You can kind of shoot for whatever you want, and we'll like shape it down, like, and shave it down as the budget becomes clearer. But like, yeah, you don't have those restrictions as much necessarily, which is amazing. And that is the dream. But at the same time, just getting into that different creative workflow of thinking like, oh, this isn't in my house. So like, where are the stairs? Like, it's really important that like if someone's creeping up the stairs, what does that look like? Like, where does it bend? Like, there's all these specific things that you have to suddenly come up with from scratch. And that, again, that's not a bad thing. It's just a different muscle. And I found myself in a little bit of a difficult place trying to figure out how to adapt to that muscle. And like, I had been writing things before that were not all conceived around things I had, but it suddenly felt like it always felt like it was coming from but if I had to make it myself, I'll write it that way. And this was the first time where I was trying to get out of that mindset. And as far as the specifics for the future for Portrait of God, I don't think I should speak to some of those individual pieces, but I think what I can say is that it's definitely a hard thing to adapt a proof of concept for a variety of reasons, especially when, for me, with Portrait of God, I think what a lot of people like about it is its brevity and its ambiguity. And those are things I really like about it. And so if we're going to adapt it, which I was eager to do so, then the balancing act becomes how to prolong it without stretching it thin. And also, if you do prolong it, how do you give more to the audience? Because we don't want it to just, again, feel like it's just the same thing. We want some new revelations and things, but we also don't want to cannibalize the ambiguity and fun mysteries about the original film. And so it's been, again, an ongoing process of trying to figure out what the lines are. And some of those were drawn up front of like, this we're not answering, like this has to remain a mystery. But others, it's like, no, we're going to see more of this, or we're going to reveal more of this. And I think that'll be fun. How do we do that in a fun way? And it's definitely tricky. And I would say, we never made the short with the intention of it being a proof of concept. I think that's where it can be helpful to know that this short you're making is a proof of concept, because then you're not like trying to retroactively like turn it into something that's proof of conceptable, or something that's adaptable. But also, if you make a short that is a proof of concept and the audience can feel that when they're watching it, that it's like baiting a feature film, it can feel incomplete, or it can feel a little bit frustrating as a short film experience. And so there's no real right answer there, but this is just the situation we've ended up with Portrait of God, and the kind of difficulties we've had to work around. But I'm excited about the needle we've threaded with it currently, where I think we have preserved things where I want you to be able to watch the short film and enjoy it in a very similar way to how you currently can, even after seeing the feature film. I don't want it to feel like it's completely altering the way you're watching the short in a way that is removing all of those mysteries that I like about it. So
excellent. Quick question on that production aspect. Maybe you can say or not say, but
yeah,
the short uses obviously practical, right? Like it's versus CGI or visual effects. Are you set on trying to maintain the practical element of the horror, and or are your partners at that higher level excited? I mean, with Sam Raimi, I'm assuming yes, but so can you talk about maybe just to put a button on that as far as like the suspense and horror aspects of it, from like your vision to what they're kind of encouraging and suggesting, maybe, etc.
Yeah, all the producers on the project have been great about methodology for making this thing. And yes, practical. I pretty much everyone that I've met on the horror filmmaking side has been like, we would like to do it practically if possible. It's just like, it just comes down to the for lack of a better word, the practicality of doing it that way, where sometimes the cost is getting in the way, sometimes efficiency, whatever. There's all these logistical reasons that employing CG can make sense. And if you can do it in a way that doesn't compromise what you're going for, then it's not like the enemy I think some people see it as. We've had conversations with regards to some of the more visually crazy things in the film about what that blend is, because there's inevitably some amount of blending of the two, with an emphasis on trying to keep it practical. We had a really cool meeting about the visual effects, and I won't get into the specifics, but I will say that, like, even for me in conceptualizing the way some of those things and reveals play out, it's been important that there is a clear base, practical base, even at an idea level, for what the thing is and operates the way it operates, to dance around it. But yeah, I think it's really cool, and that's been very important to us to find the right balance.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, Dylan, I think maybe we'll wrap up with the final two questions here.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about advice that you would give, as far as like, what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you. And then also wanted to allow you a little bit of a blue sky shout out for dream IP in the future that you would love to work with on, develop, adapt, and or studios, just like, your dream, not that you're living it right now, when we posted on Instagram, we had a comment that said, "You're on a generational run, bruh." Like, just instantly.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if there was like projects that just you as a kid and you as an artist would be like, oh, I would, this would be my dream to work on this. And if there are studios or agents or managers or producers or actors, right, just so we can shout that out into, speaking into existence. And then maybe we'll finish up with any sort of tips that you have for and that might be a little bit long-winded, which I kind of hope it is, talking about platform, maybe summarizing a little bit, but like platform, that you don't need a budget, and or if you do have a budget, things that you saw move the needle for you, and then maybe just on the spectrum as you have grown and evolved, right? Like maybe just a little mini clip notes of starting from scratch, like what worked, what didn't work for you. Everybody's path is going to be different, and then now as you've broken through that frozen layer on the lake under the pond, right, and you've escaped the emerging side of it, how the tips and advice maybe for those folks navigating those first early stages of success.
Yeah Okay, on the speaking into existence piece of it, I mean, I will say, like, honestly, I think Blair Witch has been like a huge, like, that would have been my answer. So I feel very spoiled that that's something that I'm working on right now. Yeah, so I'll leave that there. As far as other like IP, there's plenty that I would love to plan, as would pretty much every horror filmmaker. But I think Hellraiser would be really cool. I know that's a lot of people would also have that answer, and that's a very tricky one. And we had a pretty recent one. But Hellraiser, I do love Hellraiser.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then on the actors, there's so many actors. But a couple that came to mind when you asked the question. Also, I don't know if you can hear like the road outside is being really loud right now.
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm in the Bronx, so I'm surprised.
So you're good. You're good.
Gunshots or,
Incredible. No, there was just some motorcyclist going crazy. But anyways, on the actor side, I think like Melanie Linsky, I love like horror films that have middle-aged actresses as the leads. I know that that's like oddly particular, but and hopefully that's appropriate to say. Like Rebecca Hall, I think is amazing. The Night House, like, yeah. I'm trying to think of other significant actors. I feel like I could go spiraling, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, those are great. And there's an actress who you may be familiar with online, Rebecca Kennedy. She was in Two Witches. She was in a short that we championed the same time that we were championing Portrait of God a couple years ago. And she's independent and kind of emerging and landing some big roles and doing her own stuff. But she's fantastic as well. I didn't know if you knew her in the community because we were talking about Jeremiah Lewis and Cameron Gallagher and kind of the shared network or whatever. But
oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, Blair Witch, you're living the dream already. So just that's fantastic. And then Hellraiser, these are all excellent. And then you're, I guess, fortunate, right, and blessed also to have them not just consider Portrait of God as a sample, right? That's the thing that. I mean, I wouldn't say fear because you'd be lucky to have your original work considered as a sample and get hired for something else. But just from the outside of us, emerging in indie, it's like usually originals are samples, right? It just gets you paid work on somebody else's project. So the fact that you're able to have your own original Portrait of God alongside a giant legendary IP like Blair Witch is a just generational run, bro. I mean, that's amazing. So I guess, if you would like to wrap up with any tips, any advice, from the beginning, the middle to kind of early stages of success as well, we'd love to hear it more so than, obviously everything you've already given us thus far.
Yeah, I think, because there's so many ways to answer this question.
Yeah, I think YouTube and film festivals and.
Yeah. Well, what I would say, I think like the baseline piece of advice I could give is to not be too paralyzed by your options. I think it's easy to fall into this kind of paralysis with like, I want to direct. And I think it gets harder as you get older, like as you feel like, oh, it's too late for me to start directing. I'm just going to write, or any version of that kind of situation I have seen with peers. And I think at some point you just got to start making stuff, start putting it online. I do think you got to put it online, put it into festivals if you want to, but weigh the cost of how much time it's going to take to do that. If you want to get somewhere fastest, I think you take the gamble online. Just start there. It takes a long time to build an audience. You might not build an audience, but what you can do is build a network, even if you don't necessarily have that audience, and reach out to people a lot. People will respond to you, and hopefully they'll watch your stuff. And like, I don't think I needed to have the YouTube audience I had to reach out to Sam and have connected with him and sent him Portrait of God. I do think the Portrait of God situation could have happened without the YouTube channel that I had. I think the YouTube channel helped. But we were trying to go out with the pitch for Portrait of God when Portrait of God had like 50,000 views as opposed to 10 million. So it was not necessarily part of the calculus of trying to sell it. When we ended up selling it, we tried to use the numbers as something to help, but it's not a necessity. I don't think it's just a benefit. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And it's just the simplest answer ever, but just like make stuff, put it online and reach out to people. And along the way, if you keep doing that, at some point, they're going to synergize in a way that should break through, because if you have a project that's good, people are going to want to support it because it's going to help them out and they can be a part of it. And then again, retroactively, it'll help their own projects and yada, yada. So. Yeah.
I think to add to that, what you said earlier and what I have done my whole career is jump on people's sets and work with them for food. Do you need help? How can I help? What's your vision? Introduce people. I know someone that could help you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, if you're in LA or New York, somewhere that they're doing a lot of set work, 100% do that. If you're not in a place like that, I don't think you should feel like it's impossible to network. like I said, like use the internet, make your tiny things and use those and reach out to people. It's funny, I actually, Cameron and Jeremiah, I met them for the first time randomly, similar story to the Sam story, connecting through being fellow horror YouTubers. Cameron and I hopped on a call and he was like, hey, I'm doing a short in further upstate New York from Ithaca, but like you're pretty close. You want to just come out and help out on set? And so I went, and I had like very little under my belt at that point. Met the two of them for the first time. Yeah, and now we're working on stuff together to this day. And so like, yeah, just do it where you can, and if not, just do it virtually.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, well said. Well, Dylan, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. You're a freaking rock star, man. I just thank you for taking time out. It's just a pleasure to get to know you and
Likewise.
be able to ask you these questions, and you provide answers for the community at large. You know, I know hopefully it's going to help out a lot of folks. I just wanted to remind people to check out your YouTube channel. Your short films on there. I just watched Catcher as well. I love that the device is analog. I won't put any spoilers out there for folks who haven't seen it yet, but again, you can just see your vision and your craft. I mean, you're very, very talented, and I'm not just saying that. One actor, one location, you know, the lighting is phenomenal. The suspense is phenomenal. It's really a great masterclass to just watch something short that's not easily made, you know, but like you said, it's not this exaggerated multiple locations, car crashes, you know, et cetera. It's like suspense and mystery and a vision, but also like the subtextual, like kind of emotional authenticities that are there in your work just make things even more scary, and also make people lean forward and be able to relate to it, I think, easier. And I think that also helps with the horror aspect of it as well. So check out Dylan's YouTube channel. For folks on socials, follow me at Lazer Writes across all social media. Dylan, I know you're on Instagram, but would you drop your handle?
Yes, it's Dylan McClarkus. So my name, MC Clark US. Why it's that, I've actually forgotten at this point. It was made so long ago. but yeah, that's me on Instagram.
Follow Dylan on Instagram. Be excited to see Portrait of God and the Blair Witch. This show was also presented by the Stunt List website. You can visit at officialstuntlist.com if you're an emerging writer or short filmmaker. If you're an industry member looking for the next Dylan Clark and the short Portrait of God and just trying to find the hottest new voices, please check us out. Yeah, I just thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, and it's been a pleasure. And to the audiences out there supporting Dylan and supporting us at the Stunt List and just supporting original horror in theaters, and for short filmmakers with great underrepresented voices online, thank you all for supporting and make your own stuff as well. We need your voice also.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on again. And like we were talking about, very exciting time for horror and horror coming from the place that I'm coming from. So I appreciate you letting us chat about it.
Absolutely. All right, Dylan, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one.